support in Indian Wells. Look at this. I mean, this was in Australia. Court 6 literally had a line. I know I'm exaggerating, but it went for miles at the Aussie. It was wild scenes there. Ali, can you remember a women's star who gets this type of support wherever she goes?
Yeah, well, Taylor Swift. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
There is a 21-year-old phenom from the Philippines achieving feats that the world's top-ranked icons and Grand Slam victors seemingly cannot touch. She is packing stadiums to the rafters, breaking the internet, and giving tournament directors nightmares over crowd control logistics. Pundits are now openly questioning if she has become the single biggest attraction in women's tennis. Not the superior athlete, mind you, but the ultimate box office draw. Those are two entirely separate debates. Do you believe Alex Eala is currently the most electrifying name in the sport? Forget the official rankings for a moment and drop your verdict in the comments section. I am genuinely eager to hear where everyone stands on this phenomenon. I would have to draw a parallel to Sania Mirza, honestly. Back in her prime, the Indian community absolutely rallied around her, following her across the globe, though perhaps not with this level of intensity. However, I believe the ceiling for Alex Eiala is significantly higher. I'm going to borrow a metaphor from the boxing ring here, mostly because my father dreamed of me being a pugilist, though I chose the racket instead. But that mention of Manny Pacquiao? That is spot on. We witnessed Pacquiao at his absolute peak, and alongside Roger Federer, he was actually raking in higher earnings. So, if Eala can maintain her momentum on the court, who knows? The sky is truly the limit, both inside the lines and beyond the game. I mean, she could be absolutely swimming in cash, if you catch my drift. Let's kick this off with a statistic that defies all logic. Alex Eiala's pre-tournament press conference at the 2026 Australian Open racked up 171,000 views. By comparison, Novak Djokovic garnered 80,000. Aryna Sabalenka, a mere 9,000. Go ahead and read those numbers one more time if you need to let it sink in. The #1 woman in the world, a serial Grand Slam champion who dismantles opponents with such ferocity they look like amateurs, attracted just 9,000 eyeballs to her interview. Eala pulled in nearly 20 times that audience. And nobody in the industry is pretending this is business as usual. She also possesses a smile that can illuminate an entire arena. Let's be honest. I recall last year when she took down Swiatek. She handled that victory with such incredible elegance and modesty. For me, it was absolutely magnificent to witness her claim that match, and then to observe her evolution as she strives to refine her craft. Because I am a huge fan of her style. Naturally, she is hungry to climb higher than her current ranking of 32, but her hand-eye coordination is elite, and she has this uncanny knack for taking the ball early and changing its direction. The fan dynamic is always the highlight for me, especially when you see athletes from smaller nations. The passion from their supporters is unmatched when they reach the big stage. It is fascinating that Ali mentioned Sania Mirza. She boasts nearly 13 million Instagram followers. That is 5 million more than Carlos Alcaraz, and virtually equals the combined following of Alcaraz and Sabalenka. That illustrates just how massive Sania was, is, and continues to be. But with Eala about to be seated at a 1,000-level event for the first time, seeing who she faces in round 2 is crucial. Take a look at the bracket. This is the reality of the expert discourse surrounding Alex Eala in 2026. It isn't cautious. It isn't measured. It lacks that standard, diplomatic tennis jargon where every player is labeled a tough competitor with a bright future. We have moved far beyond those pleasantries. Former ATP pros Sam Querrey and Steve Johnson sat down recently to vocalize a question that many insiders have been whispering in the locker rooms. Is Alex Eala the single biggest attraction in the women's game right now? Johnson's verdict was a definitive yes. Not perhaps, not she is getting there. Just a flat yes. That response warrants a deep dive because biggest draw is a precise label. It does not equate to being the best technician. It is not about holding the highest ranking. It asks, who puts butts in seats? Who crashes the servers? Who makes security chiefs sweat over crowd control before the first serve is even hit? And when you frame it like that, in the year 2026, the argument for Eala is incredibly tough to refute. Let's rewind to Australia, as that is where this tidal wave of media hype truly began to crest. The atmosphere surrounding Eala's matches at the Australian Open was characterized as wild by the journalists on the ground. Queues seemed to stretch for miles. The turnout defied all logic if you were looking solely at the rankings. Here was a player ranked outside the top 30, generating the sort of pre-match electricity that majors usually only see for top seeds in the quarterfinals. The Filipino contingent was massive, deafening, and coordinated in a way that resembled a rock concert audience rather than a polite tennis gallery. To be fair, this isn't a brand new phenomenon for athletes hailing from fiercely patriotic countries. However, the sheer magnitude of the Eala effect is something that even seasoned tennis voices are struggling to categorize. When the question arose regarding which other female star commands this level of traveling loyalty, one analyst pointed to Sania Mirza, which is honestly the only comparison that holds any weight. Sania Mirza once commanded a legion of Indian followers at her zenith, but today, Eala's Instagram empire towers at nearly 13 million strong, standing roughly 5 million clear of Carlos Alcaraz, and practically rivaling the combined digital armies of Alcaraz and Sabalenka. We are witnessing the very definition of cross-cultural impact in tennis, and the insiders are already whispering that her ultimate ceiling could be in the stratosphere. The moment someone in that discussion invoked the name Manny Pacquiao, you knew the frame of reference had shifted to a completely different dimension. At the height of his powers, Pacquiao wasn't just an athlete. He was one of the most unmistakable faces walking the earth. His bouts were never just matches. They were national holidays across the Philippines. The entire archipelago essentially shut down for him, and at his commercial apex, his paycheck and endorsement portfolio were reportedly standing shoulder to shoulder with Roger Federer. So when grizzled tennis pundits start reaching for a Manny Pacquiao parallel, you know the conversation has officially drifted far beyond the standard sports commentary. And let's get one thing straight. This isn't just internet hype from diehard stans. These are hardened ex-pros and analysts who have dedicated their lives to the game and typically refuse to get swept up in the noise. We need to dissect the engine behind this phenomenon, because this tsunami of support isn't random, and it certainly isn't just blind emotion. A perfect storm of variables is swirling around Eala, creating a spectacle that the sport has never quite experienced in this specific package before. First off, the narrative is cinematic gold. Eala forged her steel at the Rafa Nadal Academy. She left home young, sharpening her game in Spain within one of the most ruthless competitive cauldrons the tennis world has to offer. She climbed the junior ladder, snatched up junior Grand Slam titles, and then began the grueling trench warfare of translating that potential into wins on the Pro Tour, a graveyard where, as every enthusiast knows, countless junior prodigies quietly fade into oblivion. The bridge from junior phenomenon to legitimate WTA threat is treacherous, and the majority crumble before crossing it. But Eala survived the transition, and did it with a flair that struck a nerve with a global audience holding its breath. When she toppled the reigning world number one, it was a watershed moment that completely rewired her public perception, not just because of the victory, but because of the class she displayed in the aftermath. The grace, the poise, the quiet humility that screamed she understood the magnitude of the moment without needing to put on a show for the lenses. That sort of character leaves a mark. It forges a specific brand of loyalty that money simply cannot buy. Secondly, she represents a colossal market that tennis has largely failed to crack. Southeast Asia is exploding as one of the hungriest sports consumption regions on the map, with digital saturation and social media fever, and the appetite for live action across the Philippines and its neighbors offers a commercial goldmine that global leagues have been desperate to unlock for decades. Eala doesn't just tap into that demographic. She personifies it in the most visceral, human way possible. When a Filipino fan tunes in, flies across a continent to catch her at a slam, or mashes the refresh button on a lagging stream, it is about far more than forehands and backhands. It is cultural representation playing out on the solitary stage of elite athletics. It is the power of seeing a reflection of yourself and your heritage battling it out under the brightest lights. That kind of emotional fuel doesn't run on ranking points. It runs on shared identity. And in the media landscape of 2026, identity travels faster than light. Thirdly, the girl can actually play. This is crucial, because clout without competence is a tragedy waiting to happen, and Eala brings serious technical firepower. Her hand-eye coordination is absolutely off the charts. Her knack for taking the ball on the rise and rewriting the geometry of the court before her opponent can blink is a weapon that coaches have flagged as genuinely lethal. It isn't just flashy, it's structurally efficient, creating puzzles that even higher-ranked veterans have struggled to solve. She stormed into 2026 with momentum, made a deep run in Dubai, and vaulted 16 spots to hit a career high of number 31 by late February. Now she is marching into Indian Wells, one of the calendar's premier dual events, carrying a first-round bye thanks to that hard-earned ranking. She arrives boasting a 10-6 record for the season, a stat line that proves she is fighting, winning, and building. This isn't a viral sensation who flops when the match starts. Her results are trending north, and perfectly timing that ascent with her explosion in popularity creates a self-sustaining cycle of success. This is where the business mechanics get fascinating. Tournament directors across the Middle East and Southeast Asia are already drawing straight lines between her ticket-selling power and that of Manny Pacquiao. Even Novak Djokovic, a man who has seen it all and isn't easily dazzled by anything, when a legend like Novak Djokovic looks at the chaos surrounding you and calls it a good problem for the sport, you know you have ascended to a completely different league of athlete. The sheer density of the crowds is already turning into a logistical nightmare for everyone involved. We are seeing attendance numbers that are completely blowing past what the stadiums were built to handle, leaving organizers scrambling. They are facing a reality they never planned for a player ranked outside the top 30, commanding the kind of hysteria usually reserved for the icons of the game. All eyes are now turning to Indian Wells, where the forecast predicts a massive tidal wave of Filipino support ready to flood the desert. The comparison that everyone keeps making, and it is one that demands attention, is the parallel to what Sania Mirza did for Indian tennis on the global stage. Mirza wrote the playbook on how an athlete from a non-traditional market could build an empire that crossed borders and lived on long after retirement. She didn't rack up 13 million Instagram followers simply by being the best racket swinger of her era. She earned them because she became a symbol representing something far greater than sport to a massive, passionate community. She was a cultural icon who just happened to play tennis at a world-class level. Now, analysts are looking at Eala and declaring that her potential in this arena is even greater. No hesitation, no caveats, just higher. The data backs up the hype when a press conference draws 171,000 views compared to Djokovic's 80,000. That is no accident. That is an audience screaming loud and clear about exactly who they are tuning in to watch. We also have to talk about the digital battlefield, because that is where the younger demographic lives. These are the fans who will dictate the commercial future of sports for the next 20 years, and they are voting with their attention. Eala is a native of this ecosystem. She speaks the language of short-form video and instant connection fluently. It is that raw, behind-the-curtain access that transforms a match win into a viral cultural explosion. Her victories don't just happen, they circulate. Her personality pops through the screen during interviews, armed with a smile that one analyst described with zero irony. He said it lights up a room, a phrase that usually feels like a cliché placeholder. But in the ruthless attention economy of modern media, genuine warmth and charisma are powerful currency. They are the dividing line between a viral sensation and content that fades into the void. Coco Gauff established the modern blueprint for this kind of mainstream crossover. We are talking about massive commercial potential and the kind of cultural visibility that changes the game. It is about grabbing the eyeballs of people who never watch tennis, and analysts confirm that Eala is doing exactly that in real time. She is already rivaling Gauff's attention in key markets and absolutely crushing the engagement stats across Southeast Asia. Let the weight of that statement sink in, because the official ranking gap between them is undeniable. Gauff is a Grand Slam champion and top 10 elite. Yet the frenzy around Eala doesn't look like it belongs to the world's 31st best player. It looks like something colossal. The powers that be are finally realizing that the old equation where ranking equals relevance is completely broken in this case. So, where does this rocket ship go from here? The trajectory is genuinely electric, and the insiders can feel it. Remember, she is only 21 years old. She is climbing the competitive ladder at the exact second her celebrity status is going supernova. Physically and technically, a player at 21 is nowhere near their peak, if her results keep trending up with deep runs at the majors. If she starts toppling top 10 giants and turns that number 31 ranking into a 15 or a 10, that fusion of elite performance and massive cultural influence would birth a force the women's game has never witnessed. We aren't just seeing a popular athlete. We are looking at a movement, propelled by one of the most fervent sporting nations on Earth. All of this is unfolding on the global stage of a premier individual sport. To quote the experts, the ceiling isn't just high, it is stratospheric. Here in early 2026, her baseline is already forcing directors to rewrite their logistics plans and causing legends to reach for boxing metaphors just to describe the madness. 2 years ago, no serious analyst predicted this scenario, yet here we are, staring it right in the face. Alex Eala has evolved beyond a simple tennis story. She is a ratings juggernaut, a cultural phenomenon, and a logistical nightmare, which is honestly the best kind of problem to have. If you want more deep dives into the athletes who are truly shifting the paradigm in tennis, smash that like button and subscribe. We are just getting started.